Okay. Okay, do we still have Melissa and Margaret? Are they both on? Okay. All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Can we stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have the roll call, please? Oh, it looks like both our mics are muted.
Yeah, they are. I can't control those.
How do we we can't speak then?
They have to unmute themselves.
Melissa and Margaret, you guys have to unmute yourselves. Okay. Are you sure we didn't override them somehow? Nope, they're both still muted. Ah, there we go. Melissa and Margaret, can you hear us now?
He looks like he's unmuted now.
Okay,
Can you hear us?
Melissa and Margaret, are you both there?
Yes,
Yes.
he is.
Okay, we're good to go then. Margaret, could you call the roll call?
Oh, we missed the pledge and all that. I'm
You did
sorry.
miss the pledge, sorry about that.
Okay. Mr. Bovat?
Here.
Mr. Moffett?
Here.
Ms. Stefanko?
Present.
Mr. Bradkey?
Present.
Mr. Phillips?
Present.
Mr. Pontinas?
Present.
All right, we'll move to approval of minutes. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was held Tuesday, January 21st, 2020.
So moved.
So moved.
You do second. Do second.
Second it.
All right, that was moved by Melissa and seconded by Mr. Moffett. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bovat?
Affirm.
Okay.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Stefanko?
Yes.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, minutes are approved. We'll move to new business. We have a kind of a long list here, and we're going to rely on our new town manager, Craig, to help us go through some of these and give us some background as we move down this list.
Okay, so the first item is the approval or renewal of the agreement that we have for the use of the Kalman property for the Kalman Field to the south of Civic Park. I was told by Chip Sobek that Mrs. Kyleman has verbally approved that agreement, and I was told that she signed it and that the clerk's office has it, but I'm having a hard time tracking that down, so I'm going to have you sign it again and then take it to her again if we need to. But essentially, this is an annual renewal that we have. We pay $250 a year for the use of for the lease of this land, and it's quite simply for that southernmost ball field at the end of Civic Park, and so we do this on an annual basis.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the Kyleman Field agreement.
So moved.
Second.
That was moved by Melissa and seconded by Mike Moffett. Please call the roll on that one, Margaret.
Mr. Bovat?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Stefanko?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, that is approved. Then we have the National Flag Football Agreement.
Okay, similarly, because of the COVID-19 situation, the board has not seen this, but it's my understanding that Chip Sobek spoke with and signed the agreement, if you will. It's not a contract, but an agreement with National Flag Football League for their involvement with the town and their program for the year. So what we need to do is simply ratify that approval, since that didn't happen at the February meeting, which it normally would have.
All right. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the National Flag Football Agreement that was just explained.
And it's my understanding that they pay us $5 a head for that,
Yes.
for that agreement.
Yep.
I can second that.
You can be first.
Okay.
Okay, we need a second?
Second?
Okay. All right, we have a first by Mike and a second by Mike. Let's call the roll call vote on that.
Which Mike and which Mike?
Mike Bovat first, Mike Moffett second.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bovet?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. DeFranco?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, the National Flag Football Agreement is approved. We'll move on to the Porta Potty contract. In our packet, there were two companies that submitted bids to manage our porta potties this year. We have Premier Porta Potty, who would be new, and Service Sanitation, who we have used, I believe, the last couple of years. I don't believe we've had any negative reports or any issues with Service Sanitation. So is there any discussion on that one? I would recommend keeping with Service Sanitation this year. Anybody have any issues with that?
I would just add that they're already also under contract with us for servicing the farmer's market.
Correct.
Providing and servicing the farmer's market porta potties, and I would just recommend, for simplicity's sake, that we go with the same company, and then they can do all the porta potties in town, on a more regular schedule.
Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to extend the porta potty contract for 2020 to Service Sanitation.
So moved.
So move.
Melissa, be the second.
Second?
Okay. Mike Moffett made the motion, and Melissa was the second. Margaret, please call the roll on that one.
One question, Mr. Bradkey, real quick. There was the request to add one porta potty to the list that we provide. Do we need to take that up now, or do we?
I think we can just do that with them. We
all
can
right.
just change it. We don't have to approve that one.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
Yeah, we just tell them. Okay, Margaret, I'm sorry.
Mr. Bovet?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. DeFranco?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no
Thank you.
opposition, the porta potty contract was awarded to Service Sanitation. Then we'll move into the summer workers.
So it's my understanding that the council approved an additional appropriation in February for the addition of summer workers for the Parks Department for the purpose of park maintenance and upkeep. And there was an amount, a base amount, I believe, of $20,000, which was approved for that. We have conducted interviews the last couple days of the applicants, and we have a recommendation as to who we'd like to hire. And it's my understanding that we would like to hire up to 6 total employees, a combination of college students and high school students. That is going to be pending additional approval of a transfer from the council of, I believe, something on the order of $4,000 to $6,000 in addition to make it possible to hire the 6. But it's 4 college students. At this point, we'd like to make a recommendation to hire 4 college students and 2 high school students. The college students would work for up to 40 hours a week, and the high school students would work about 20 hours a week.
So that was, say that one more time, it was how many?
4
Of
college
each?
students, 2 high school students.
So 6 people altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And so there was an initial 20,000, and then 6 more will be approved.
Up to 6 more would need to be
Up to 6.
approved as a transfer.
Okay.
depending on the amount of that
All right,
transfer.
and you're still in the process of interviewing, so
We're done interviewing.
you're done, you're ready to
and-
extend offers?
And we're ready to extend offers,
Okay.
correct.
All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the 6 summer workers that will be hired with the additional dollars that the council will approve to be the final decision or for selection, job offer to be made by the town manager.
So moved.
Second it.
Okay, that was a move by Melissa and second by Mike Moffett. Could you call the roll on that one, please?
Mr. Bovet?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. DeFranco?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, the summer workers are approved. Now we have the discussion and/or approval of programs and fees.
So on an annual basis, you have a discussion, and much earlier in the year, normally under the circumstances of the 2020 summer program and fees associated with that. Obviously, we put a hold on the early registration and dates for our program. So what we need to discuss is basically what we'd like to do in terms of a summer program. So this includes the camps and the instructional opportunities that we offer. And prior to his retirement, Chip Sobek had been making the connections necessary to reestablish those relationships we already had, but it also reached out to some other individuals for some additional opportunities. And I can make the whole packet on a very draft basis available to you, but because there's a lot of basically placeholders in here for 2019 that we haven't updated yet. But basically, the biggest discussion is, A, would we like to have a program this year, and if so, abbreviated? And B, when would that start? And at this point, the earliest that I can see us feasibly putting a program out in terms of being able to start a program for summer camps and other recreation opportunities would be July 4th. Given the fact that we would still need to put the booklet together and get that out to people, and we would need to, do other things to prepare in terms of renewing contracts with providers and, making sure that people are still available and still want to provide these programs. So this is obviously kind of caught us all off guard because of the COVID situation. It's my understanding that organized recreational activities can resume on June 14th, but like I said, it's going to take us a little bit longer than that to get this going. And I'd also like to, just reach out to a couple of other communities to see how they're handling that this year. But I just wanted to open a discussion about how we might approach this year, and if, pending obviously hopefully no other negative changes with regard to COVID-19, the situation getting any worse, if we could focus on perhaps considering putting a start date up for July 4th for, these programs to resume. So I just want to open that up for discussion and, see if you guys have any questions or any concerns with regard to that.
I think that would probably make the most sense, because I know even though the governor outlined June 14th as a kind of a go date, I would hate to see us start the programs with everything ready and something happen and then push that date.
Well, it's going to take us a bit, like I said, to finalize the document itself and to get that out both, online's doesn't take that long, but to distribute this in the normal ways that we get this out, and then give people time to actually register. So I'm concerned about trying to do that by June 14th and just rushing things. I'd rather not rush it. And like I said, I also want to kind of reach out to the other communities and see what, if anything, they're changing or doing differently, just as a discussion, and then I can share that information with the board members accordingly.
Is the volleyball, is that part of that packet, or is that something different? 'Cause I've had quite a few people asking about that.
I believe, yes.
Said I would look into it.
But again, we hadn't been able to even really consider, the only thing that we've even had a discussion on, because it's similar to the flag football situation, is that the soccer shots, I believe it is, that pays us $5 a head, basically, for the use of Heartland Park's property in front of the animal control facility. I think that's the only exception. I spoke with her, and I apologize, I can't remember her name right now off the top of my head. And, kind of gave her the go-ahead to start about June 20th, because she's kind of separate. And those are not things being offered, through our Parks Department. But sand volleyball is part of that. And again, it would, originally the deadline would have been May 4th, but
Right.
There was obviously no way under the circumstances to have done that this time. So if we offer it, it would be, I would need to reach out again to the coach and to, to the organizer there, and I have to reach out to all these people actually, and find out, are they interested in an abbreviated program, and if so, are there any things that need to change as a result of that? But I just needed guidance from you guys tonight in general. Is this worth reaching out to these people to do an abbreviated season, like basically a month is what it boils down to, instead of, the normal offerings that we have because of the circumstances? But yes, volleyball would be included in that.
Right.
Yeah, you may not get as many responses from people who are willing to like teach the classes or lead them because it's abbreviated.
Right.
But it doesn't hurt to try if we can, put as much as we can out there while we
I
can.
have all the contacts, from Chip that I got from him previously, and so I have the ability to do that. And I also have no idea what the situation is with the kids that usually help put on the camps. So I need to make those contacts as well.
So you're talking July 6th would kind of like when you.
Basically a kickoff, yeah.
On that Monday.
Yeah. July 4th was a general guideline,
Right,
yeah.
and then- Yeah,
Right.
I think a lot of the.
No earlier than that Monday.
No earlier?
I just don't see it being feasible to do anything. And I know that other communities aren't even as far along in discussion as we are on this. But I want to find out, what their thinking is, so.
So, no, we could approve these for you, the programs and the fees, and just have it be pending whatever the final decision is from the people that provide. Would that make sense for you? Would
Yeah,
that meet
and I
your
don't
needs?
think, and I don't think any of the fees will change, so I think the fees remain the same as last year. They're at least pending any additional conversations with any of these providers, if there
Yeah,
are
depending.
fees that would need to increase or decrease, or most likely increase if anything, for any reason. But again, up until now, I had no, until we got the guidance from the governor that we could even have a date that we knew when to reopen, we really weren't, prepared to discuss what we wanted to do with
Okay.
this.
We can approve that proactively. So we'll do it this way. I'd like to entertain a motion to tentatively approve the programs and fees based on final determinations and discussions with the town manager and individual providers.
So moved?
Second.
Okay, it was moved by Melissa and second by Mike Moffett. Margaret, could you call the vote on that?
Mr. Bovet?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. DeFranco?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye, seeing no opposition, the abbreviated summer program will move ahead as available. Then we have the CDBG grant for Prairie West and Founders Park.
Okay, so what that is what's called the Community Development Block Grant, which is money that's offered to communities through HUD. Every 2 years, the town, along with other towns that are not already entitlement communities by themselves in Lake County, all as a group kind of are offered the opportunity to receive entitlement funds from HUD for the purpose of community improvement projects. In our case, we're kind of limited because of income requirements. We're limited to doing ADA improvement related projects. And the most logical place to do that is often within parks. And so we have the opportunity to apply for those funds every 2 years, as I said. And last time we applied for the funds, we received funds to do the pathway or sidewalk connection from one side of from the soccer fields, the Gates soccer fields, to the other. And this time, in various conversations, we came up with the idea of doing an expansion to the parking facilities at Prairie West Park, as well as incorporation of additional ADA accessible parking spaces at that facility. That would also require the slight reroute of the pathway that's out there just to accommodate those new parking spaces. And so we've asked for $15,000 in CDBG grant money for a project that's around a total of about $250,000 to do. So about 10%. And only those ADA elements are what are usable for those funds. We would intend to do the remainder of those projects with recreation impact fee monies.
Okay.
And then for Founders Park, which is going to be a new park, as you know, that's built later this year, the same thing, we would be asking for some funds from CDBG to allow for the construction of the parking and the striping and the access associated with the ADA parking, as well as a portion of the pathway that leads from the parking lot through the park to ultimately across the boardwalk to Three Springs neighborhood. So And we're asking for $60,456 of a total project of about $500,000 in total budget. Again, we would do the remainder of that with recreation impact fee dollars. And there's some grant monies associated with that project already that would offset those as well. And the good thing about using the dollars for that project is that by getting these funds from HUD through this Community Development Block Grant, we're able to offset the amount of match that the town has to provide, would have had to provide otherwise. So it results in the town having to pay even less than what they were already committed to paying
Right.
with the grant that we had already received.
And the Founders Park grant was when we started working on last year, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So just wanted to let you guys know that I had applied for both of those projects, and I don't know exactly when we're going to receive word, because obviously everything is set back from normal schedules. The public hearings for these will be held in June, and they're going to be conducted by the Lake County Community Economic Development Department for us. We would have normally held those at our own council meeting in April, but because that was a different situation, given the COVID-19 issue, they're holding those public meetings for us in June, and I believe it's June 21st, if I'm not mistaken, that they're holding those. But anyway, just wanted to give the park board a heads up that we applied for those funds, and we'll hopefully likely receive those and be able to do those projects.
Okay. But we don't need to approve any of that because
No, it's more just
just all
notification.
notification. Okay.
I mean, if you want to give general approval of the fact that, I guess, that we applied for those funds or whatever, that's fine, but the council will be taking up a resolution at its meeting next week on their agenda to approve the application for the two projects as well.
Okay. So, but I don't think we need to,
I don't think you have to take any
we don't do
action.
anything because
No.
it's, okay. And the Founders Park was already underway.
Right.
All right. Then we have the Park Superintendent position update.
So as you may know, Chip Sobeck resigned as of the end of April, or not resigned, I'm sorry, not, let me make clear, retired at the end of April, sorry. Retired at the end of April, and we have begun the process of searching for a new park superintendent. We've received a number of applicants, and it looks like a number of good applicants. The application for submittal deadline for that was last Friday, and we're going to be beginning the process of reviewing those. So what will need to happen is most likely the park board will need to schedule an executive session to go through those applications. I believe they've been passed to you, Mr. Bradkey, and then we'll need to get those obviously to the rest of the board members. But basically, per state statute, the park board would ultimately make the recommendation selection of the individual who would be hired for that position. So I think it just make a note that we need to, sometime in the near future, schedule an executive session of the park board to start that process, and
Okay.
and then eventually start conducting those interviews. And we probably want to start with either telephonic or web conference based interview, and then narrow the list, and then go from there to before we do anything in person. I would recommend given the circumstances.
Okay. My only question with that to the park board members is there are many applicants for this position. So I think maybe it would be helpful for us if maybe Mr. Phillips went through them and weeded out the first round of people who didn't meet all the qualifications but still applied, and pull them out so we didn't have to review all of those. Maybe if he could reduce it down to a few candidates that best meet the thing, then we don't have to go through an interview, because there's like 19 applications.
Definitely.
Would that make sense to everybody?
Absolutely.
I'd kind of be open to maybe looking at it.
Oh, we'll send them out to you.
Yeah,
You
you'll-
can look at
we-
them all.
by no
But we
means
just don't have
wanna
to,
keep anything
so we don't have
from
to
you,
interview
Okay,
20
I
people.
got you.
Yeah, there's a few that are not qualified to be considered, and, we can obviously weed those out pretty quickly. And there are basically two other levels of applicants: those who have been park directors and those who have been recreation supervisors. Across the board, that's the two categories. And so it's going to come down to, do you want somebody who has been a park director or a park district director, or somebody who, may be rising through the ranks and might be a good, selection for somebody to become park director. But those are basically the categories that we're talking about. The individuals fall into those two categories very clearly.
Okay. And I'll make sure, because I think I have almost all of them. I can forward all those
Okay.
to you guys, and you can look all through them.
Thank you.
All right, I think that takes care of our new business. In order just not to amend our agenda, I have one or two other items I'll put under any and all as we get down. Old business, we don't have anything listed on our agenda as old business. We can move to payment of bills. I think we can do these all as one group like we did for the last one, since there was 4 of them. This is a little bit different. Normally, we just do 1 month at a time, but since we haven't had a few meetings. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the park board APVs for February in the total dollar amount of $21,800.94. The March APVs in the total dollar amount of $19,533.15. The April APVs in the total dollar amount of $29,121.10. And the May APVs in the total dollar amount of $26,210.93.
So moved.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion was made by Mike Moffett and second by Mike Bouvat. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mr. Bovet,
Aye.
Mr. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. Stefanko,
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey.
Aye. Seeing no opposition, all the APVs are approved for payment. Under any and all, just kind of an FYI, I got a message from the St. John Youth, or St. John Baseball, that they're going to be putting in sanitizer stations. I have a picture up here I can pass around if anyone's interested, that they're going to be putting up in all the dugouts. So it is like a hand sanitizer station that can be used in all the dugouts. They'll be mounted, not something that's moving around, and they're going to have them there. So they just wanted me to let everyone know that that's what they were doing. And then one more piece up for discussion. We've had some communication from the Lake Hills Homeowners Association. They are interested in, installing 2 fountains in the ponds. One in Gulf Lake, which is the large body of water in Lake Hills, and then in the smaller park in Lindsay Park, there's a smaller body of water. They want to put a fountain in there. Neither of these 2 sites are. It's all on their cost. They are paying for all that. It's not going to cost the park board or the town any improvement. The large one in the Fountain Lake Park, there's already a breaker there, so there's really no work to do except connect the power into them, and the Homeowners Association pays for that and the power ongoing. In Lindsay Park, there is a little work that needs to get done. They have to bore about 30 feet under one of the walking paths that are there. But again, that will be on at their expense, and they will maintain the fountain and the electricity and all that under their Homeowners Association fees. So that one we do need to approve that one, because that will be going under one of the walking paths. The first one really doesn't have issue, but we could approve those if we're interested in approving that for both of those together. Does anyone have an issue with giving them approval for that?
Just a question. The only thing I would ask is and I think this should need to become just a standard thing the town does going forward, is when anybody's requesting the use of town land, or in the case of the Parks Board, parkland, that we just have a standard agreement that we have our attorneys put together, that they understand that, in this case, that they understand they're responsible for the cost of installation, maintenance, upkeep, and any restoration work necessary to restore the disturbed area back to the way it was before they installed the conduit in this case. So I would just ask that, that be part of the consideration.
And I think there is one, because we've done this before with other organizations, so I think there is a standard one.
Okay, and I'll just
Out
have
there somewhere.
I'll just have to find that.
All right. So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the installation of the 2 fountains in Lake Hills and Gulf Lake and Lindsay Park Lake at the expense of the Homeowners Association, pending the signed agreement
With the town,
to be in place with the town.
yeah.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, that was moved by Melissa, seconded by Mike Bovat. Could you call the roll call, please?
Mr. Bovet,
Aye.
Mr. Moffett,
Aye.
Ms. DeFaco?
Aye.
Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, we will give approval for the Homeowners Association of Lake Hills to install those two fountains. Anything else under any and all?
Did you receive an additional email from Mr. Bonato from St. John Baseball regarding a request for, I guess, covering some additional improvements that they're looking at making at Civic Park and Heartland Park? I don't know if you're copied on that.
Let's see.
It looks like we can look into that one further, I guess. It looks like, I'm not sure, maybe some board members were copied and not others, so.
But this is one of those things that it's at their expense, correct?
Well, they're doing some things at their expense, but they're asking the town to cover
Okay.
the expenses of some other improvements. But perhaps what I'll do is, I'll look into this further and see if this is, in the case of Civic Park, it's a town issue because the Parks Board doesn't own and operate Civic Park. Heartland Park might be a different story, but we might just need to talk with the town council as well to get their feedback on whether the improvements are something that they want to consider. So,
So we can just put that piece on hold until we get a little bit more information?
yeah, I think so.
Okay, so we don't need to take any action on that one. Okay, then we have discussion on a new park near the soccer fields. It just says it on the agenda. I don't have any information on that.
Oh, I know what that is now. Okay, so in conversation with Chip Sobek previously, there was discussion about whether we wanted to install a new playground, a set of playground equipment at the soccer fields. We try to install one piece of playground equipment a year in the park, at least one every year in the parks, and it was his suggestion that we consider putting the one in at the soccer fields, just because obviously they're more heavily used under normal circumstances. There's really no place for kids to play while there's soccer going on. Plus, there aren't that many opportunities for people to have playground access to a playground in the gates. So that was another reason that he suggested that we consider that. So if it's something you'd like to consider, I can reach out to the representative from New Toys and who we've worked with several times in the past, and get some quotes on that for you to perhaps consider at your next meeting.
Okay.
If that's something you want
Yeah,
to
because
pursue.
he'll make a layout for you. He'll do a couple different layouts of
Yep.
the equipment based on how much spacing there is and.
Yep, and it's my understanding that we usually try to budget for one piece of, or one system every year. And so that's what was being suggested. So if you're interested in me, but
If I could interrupt 1 second, I just received an email that the park board does not own that park that is being discussed.
okay, well they can still pay for improvements if they work with the entity that does.
Okay.
So I can look into that as well. I wasn't aware of that, thank you.
And you're gonna do some more investigation anyway, so.
That may be owned by a homeowners association then? Is that was there more information about who owns it?
No, I just got a
Okay,
text.
I'll look into that.
That the park board doesn't own it.
Okay, I'll look
I
into
heard
that.
at one time they were looking to donate the land to the park.
Okay, so then maybe there's some confusion on that
Yeah.
then. We can look into that further. I think that's what that was referring to, because I did have a conversation about that with Chip.
Okay.
Prior to him retiring, so.
All right. All right, then we can table that item and then come back to when we have a little bit more information and some specifics, since there's a question on ownership there. All right, public comment was done a little bit different this time. It was emailed in or called in electronically. So we have a few things here to read. 1, 2, 3 all go together with Larimer Park, so I'll group those together, and then.
And there is one more that I received by text from our clerk treasurer.
Okay, you want to go ahead and read that one, since you have it?
Sure. This is from Megan Tilton. I don't have her address right now, but she is asking, do you know if they are still going to start on the park soon off of 101st? She's wanting to know when the construction is going to start for Founders Park.
Oh, I can answer that, but that's Do you answer public comment, or do you just take public comment?
Normally, we just take public comment.
Yeah,
We
okay.
answer it if we're able to, but we'll just take public comment, and that's it. So that one was already a part of our earlier discussion with Founder's Park, so we can take that under advisement and come back to that one. One I have from Mary, I will mispronounce her name, and I'm sorry, Gruzik, 11720 West 94th Place. It says, I, along with many residents and non-residents, use the walking path in Prairie West Park. After the few inches of snow, this was from February, so we're a few months later, we received last week, I noticed that the walking path had been plowed. Fantastic. I love to walk outside, and now I can continue walking outside. Please thank the employee who thought about us all who use the path. Hope he can continue to keep it plowed when he is able. Mary Grusick. And we have one from Patricia Tonkovich, 9994 Alcott Avenue. I wish to compliment how great Heartland Park looks. I drive by several times a week, and all your hard work is noticeable. I love the different color baseballs, and the sign looks fresh and new. I'm sure our residents are happy with your improvements. Pat Tonkovich. Thank you, Pat. This is from Stephen Stife. There's no address on this one for the record. To whom it may concern, I hope I'm sending this to the right person, or that you can get it to the right person. My daughters have played softball in St. John for years, and I want to say the improvements to the park are amazing. The girls often get overshadowed by baseball, so the softball added to the sign is awesome. The park is cleaner than I've ever seen it. All that overgrowth is gone, and it brings so much to the whole area. I frequently walk my dog along the park, and please, whoever is finally keeping the bag stands full deserves the raise. Haha. At this time, everyone complaining, I really think we should praise what is good, and the improvements to Heartland Park are awesome. Keep it up, St. John. And that was from Stephen Stife. Then these three that go together all are concerning Larimer Park. My name is Michelle Metzger. I have been attending the parks meetings, the last one being in October. I feel like Larimer Park has been pushed to the side for a long time. The first year I moved in, they ripped out a big slide, a merry-go-round, and 4 swings, and replaced it with nothing. They said they were going to redo the baseball field, playground, and basketball court. The baseball field looks the same, and now we have a park that isn't safe for young kids and a basketball court you should see for yourself. They said not to worry, that early spring they were going to redo it, and here we are at the end of May, and nothing has been done. I understand COVID, but there's nothing slowing down construction right now. They promised and said that we'll be getting basketball courts in the spring. When will the construction start? My boys are looking forward to shooting some hoops. That was from Michelle Metzger. Lisa Eckerman, 9437 Woodland Drive. I was told that nothing was mentioned about the basketball courts at Larimer. I talked to the town manager assistant, and she said nothing was ever mentioned. Well, she was wrong. It was in the meeting last September. Look at my attachment. Please let me know what I should do. That was from Lisa Eckerman. And this is from Katie Slager, 9417 Woodland Drive. Hello, my name is Katie Slager. I live at 9417 Woodland Drive. I attended a couple of the meetings in the fall. I was told that Larimer Park was going to be getting new basketball courts, that they were getting quotes from companies so that it could be happening in the spring. I have not seen anything or heard that anything is going on to be happening with it. I didn't even see it on the agenda for tonight. I just want to know what's going on with it. I would also like to know why there is no concrete path from the parking lot to the playground. It's gravel. We just got a new handicapped neighbor, and she cannot roll her wheelchair or walker through the gravel. Something needs to be done about this so everyone can enjoy the park. I have attached some photos so you can see how horrible the basketball court looks at the gravel pathway. Let's take care of the old parks before we start putting in the new ones. Thank you. Thank you to Gabe, the town worker that came out Monday and spruced up Larimer Park sign and fixed the light. That is from Katie Slager. So these, I will just comment, these three, Melissa, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, these three were people or issues that came from Larimer Park in the fall. We were going to address it in the spring, but this is really only our first meeting that we've had since January. So maybe after we have that executive session, that's one of the things we could look at is in the 5-year plan and see what we can do with Larimer.
Correct, yes, I agree. And Frank, I was also wondering, do the other new park board members, do they have a copy of the 5-year plan?
They will, we talked about it right before the meeting, so we'll make sure they get one, because they didn't have one.
And Mr. President, if I could comment, when the lady called, I told her that it was mentioned at the September meeting and was going to be discussed again for the spring for work to begin. But I told her I did not see it on the January agenda and that we had not had a meeting since.
Thank you for answering that, and that is exactly true. We did say we would talk about it in spring, we're just a little bit late, COVID kind of threw everything off. So we can put that in our radar and work on that next. Okay, that takes care of the public comment. We'll move towards adjournment. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved?
Second.
Motion was made by Melissa Stefanko and seconded by Mike Moffett. Could you call the roll on that one, please?
Mr. Bovat?
Aye.
Mr. Moffett?
Aye.
Ms. Stefanko?
Aye.
And Mr. Bradkey?
Aye. Seeing no opposition, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.